This presentation will look at research concerning the effectiveness of discipline in toddlers. So first, let's put it into context. There are many different philosophical and psychological attitudes towards how to guide children into adulthood as contributing members of society. A common topic of discussion surrounds discipline, punishment, and behaviour modification. Much of the research around punishment involves the long-term effects on children and predominantly refers to physical punishment, and there is little research concerning the actual effectiveness of punishment in modifying behaviour. Hence, this presentation is focusing on the research paper by Lazaler, Sather, Schneider, Larson and Pike published in 1998 in the Journal of Marriage and Family, titled Punishment Enhances Reasoning's Effectiveness as a Disciplinary Response to Toddlers. This research is particularly relevant as it looks at different disciplinary approaches and their combined effectiveness in modifying the behaviour of toddlers, and how then that impacts on their behaviour as preschoolers. So let's look at some key terms. Punishment comes from the behaviourist model of operant conditioning. It is explained as any outcome or consequence of a certain behaviour that weakens the probability of that behaviour reoccurring. Reasoning comes from the humanist approach, based on the belief that humans are born with the ability to think for themselves and therefore have autonomous control of their behaviour, so behaviour is based on one's moral internalisation. The constructivist approach combines these two approaches. The adult guides the child in the hope that they will make the right choices, but holds the understanding that this guidance may require discipline. This is the approach that is being researched in this paper by Lazaler and his colleagues. They use Baumrinn's 1973 research of parenting styles as their rationale for this study. Baumrinn found the authoritative parenting control to be the most effective. This style would be considered to be within the constructivist approach, as it combines reasoning and firm control, sharing control between adult and child. Lazaler and colleagues had previously studied this combined approach in 1996, which supported the hypothesis that a combination of reasoning and punishment was more effective than each approach alone. But that study focused on compliance as the measure of effectiveness. So the aim of this research was to investigate whether the improved behaviour came from moral internalisation or from avoidance of the aversive. So they added a recurrence delay measure and other controls for more specific variables, such as time delays and frequencies between the punishment backup. Participants were 40 mothers and their toddlers aged 25 to 38 months. The group was relatively balanced in gender, with 21 boys and 19 girls, and socioeconomic backgrounds was also balanced, with 45% coming from working class and 50% from middle class backgrounds. Their hypotheses corresponded to the analysis methods of the study. Firstly, they allowed for analysis of a backup recency to investigate whether the number of preceding disciplinary incidences and their recency affected the recurrence rate of misbehaviour after reasoning alone. Secondly, they compared the mean recurrence delays between the groups to identify which is more effective. And thirdly, toddler assessments were used to control for the disruptive behaviours of oppositional and physical aggression to make more accurate analysis longitudinally when the participants were retested 20 months later. To conduct the study, mothers were required to provide data using structured diaries recording incidences of misbehaviour and the resulting discipline response. Training was given, definitions made clear, and compliance to standards was agreed and checked on twice a week during the 4-week study. At the conclusion of the study analysis, results were shown to support the hypotheses. Recurrence data were analysed and showed the effectiveness of reasoning alone was increased when combined recently with punishment, which supported the first hypotheses. Data concerning delays in recurrence were compared between groups and showed the combination of reasoning and punishment significantly predicted an increased delay in recurrence of behaviour, which supported the second hypothesis. Interactions between disruptive behaviour at age 4 and the different study groups were analysed and found that the children whose mothers rarely combined punishment with reasoning showed the biggest increase in disruptive behaviour scores from toddlerhood to 4 years old, and those whose mothers frequently used reasoning and combined punishment when necessary displayed the largest decrease in disruptive scores at age 4, which supported the third hypothesis. So, is combining reasoning and punishment effective? According to this research, it seems that yes, it is. The research seems to have controlled for many variables, and the researchers have identified limitations and directions for future research which seem logical and valid. However, I feel that the study should be replicated with a broader spread of the participants. This is the second study conducted by these researchers with similar methodology, yet 85% of its participants are Caucasian and no African Americans were represented. Further research could ensure a more balanced representation of participants. Another issue which could be discussed further concerns the psychological approaches mentioned at the beginning of this presentation of behaviourist, humanist and constructivist, in other words, the nature versus nurture debate. Lazaire and his colleagues' interpretations of their research could be seen as promoting the constructivist approach and the benefits of the authoritative parenting style, which many agree with. However, behaviourists may argue that the reason the reasoning alone becomes effective when it is frequently combined with punishment is because the reasoning becomes a discriminative stimulus or signal for the punishment, meaning that this is still the punishment that is the aversive for misbehaviour. Even the researchers refer to the reasoning as becoming a conditioned punisher. Considering that this study was to focus on whether the child's decrease in misbehaviour was due to compliance through avoiding the aversive or from moral internalisation, this could be a bone of contention. Certainly, the results supported the hypotheses, but there was no control group of punishment alone, so the opportunity to rule out rival hypotheses is missing. Future research could look at this more carefully. In saying that, though, I think that just as there is a nature-nurture debate is ongoing, I suspect that the behaviourist, humanist, constructivist debate would also be ongoing. And since we are studying humans, there are so many variables, it would be almost impossible to control for every one. Overall, I think this research paper has done a detailed and thorough job of attempting to control for many variables, and therefore I think it has highly relevant and significant implications for society when considering how to guide our children into adulthood. Thank you.